Good evening, wonderful people. Welcome to the HazMat podcast, episode number 16. I'm your host, Chris from HazMat, and today we're going to be talking about clearance certificates. So, what is a clearance certificate, you may be asking? As relate to asbestos removal, a clearance certificate is a document that proves that an asbestos removal has been done correctly. It's essentially a statement that the site or the removal area is now free of contamination and is safe to reoccupy. Very important with asbestos. Why do you need an asbestos certificate? Well, here in little old New Zealand, it is under our law, under the Asbestos Regulations 2016, and I'm sure that other neighbouring or similar countries will have the same type of legislation. It's a legal requirement essentially, and it also makes an official record that the job has been done correctly and by the statute. It also helps to have a clearance certificate if you have an asbestos removal job done for things like real estate purposes and other things like disposing of the waste product, like let's say for example taking asbestos out of a house prior to demolition. When you take the rest of the house to the tip to get rid of it, they want to see a record that the waste is now asbestos free, hence the clearance certificate. So who can issue a clearance certificate? Well, there are two types of asbestos, as we've talked about before. Class A, which is friable, Class B, non-friable. With the Class B, under our law, it says that the person needs to be a competent person, so a competent person can issue a clearance certificate. With Class A, they actually need to be registered with WorkSafe as an asbestos assessor. And how they do that in most cases is they have to apply to WorkSafe and also provide evidence that they have experience, namely passing a course usually from the British Occupational Hygiene Society or BOHS, and it's called the IP 404. So for Class B, a competent person, somebody that knows what they're doing. Class A, they actually have to be registered, and they, in most cases, have to have sat a course or have an equivalent tertiary qualification. How clearance certificates are issued? So they are issued in a written format. I have an example right here. This is usually sent via email. It's a computer document, but you can print it out, and it's not a certificate in the normal sense of one piece of paper with a gold badge on it or something like that and a signature. It's usually more of a report format, and it has several pages setting out the specifics of the job and also the qualification or of the assessor who's actually issuing it, and also other details pertaining to the specific job. So a clearance certificate is more than one page usually. In fact, if we jump ahead a little bit, there's photographic evidence of the job, meaning some photo documentation to show that the job has been done correctly and that it is now clean and safe to reoccupy. So there you go. Now, there are a couple of circumstances where you don't need a clearance certificate. One of them, as we talked about in one of our very first podcasts, is the under 10 square metres of non-friable asbestos removal. There's no legal requirement there to actually obtain a clearance certificate. But in terms of performing that type of work, I encourage you to go and look at that podcast. I think it's episode number 2, and it will set out that the job still has to be done to the same standard that would get a clearance certificate. The other exception is for things like asbestos related works, which is everything bar a license removal essentially. Anything else, so transporting asbestos or research on asbestos, or what's another thing? Disposal of asbestos. Those specific activities don't require a clearance certificate as such. Whereabouts can you find an asbestos removal assessor? Well, number one, there is a register here in New Zealand on the WorkSafe website. You can actually look them up by their accreditation. So that would be for a Class A, or not a competent person, but somebody that can do the Class A or friable asbestos. So they have their own register there. You can talk to asbestos removal companies. They obviously work with these guys hand in glove a lot. So if you need to get an assessor's details, you can ask a removal contractor. The other thing is there's a lot of companies that do testing or consulting or surveys and things of that nature. So consulting companies, they would also know of licensed or accredited assessors as well. So there you have it. Just keeping in mind, another question I get from time to time is there a database of all the clearance certificates that have ever been issued? And the answer is no. When you get a clearance certificate, it's really on you to store and distribute that document as required. There's no central database to search. They're not really attached to LIM reports or anything like that. So no, there's no overall search feature to find clearance certificates or a database that holds all that information. There you go. We'll keep that one short and sweet today. And if you want to support our channel, please like and share, subscribe. That's very important. Also, we will see you next week for another episode of the HazMat podcast. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen.